Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
This is Christy in my closet in St. Louis.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, and happy to be back together. Because
I know.
Yeah.
How long has it been?
Well, this will be the fourth week. I mean, 3 weeks, because you guys did an intro, we did an intro, we had no episode last week. So that was 3
Right.
weeks.
Yeah, I know. And I think we forgot to warn people, too, that there was no episode last week.
100%. I thought about it, and then I was like, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. So I was like, oh, well, it is.
Yeah, no. At that point, there was nothing we could do. But it was so wonky with all the, Wes on an intro, Emery on an intro.
Yeah.
So here we are together.
Yep.
Again. Back together at last. I'm happy.
Yes, me too.
Our summers are absolutely bananas.
We just, right before we started recording, we're talking about all the things, all the people that were coming in, all the places we're going, all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It is super fun. And almost the 4th of July will be the 4th of July once this drops, right? It'll be
Yeah.
So, and we have a Patreon that dropped a little chit chat on Friday the 5th. So if you guys are interested, you should check that out. We're talking a little bit more about Gypsy Rose.
I was just going to say, did we record that already?
Yeah. Yes, we did. It was a while ago, a week or so, 2 weeks ago, but yeah, we did. And we talked about Gypsy. We talked about a couple shows you've watched. Yeah. It's a good one. Speaking of, we do have some new folks over there on the Patreon that we haven't had a chance to thank yet from the last couple months. We've got Kelly B, Dana D, and Carrie M.
Yes,
that are new to us over there.
For joining. We couldn't remember when we stopped or when we started to forget to add these people into the intro.
Yeah, it's really, truly, guys. It's not the struggle bus because everything that we're doing is a lot of fun and we can't complain about a daggone thing, but our brains are mushy.
Yeah, just a little bit mushy. And actually, while we're thinking of it, since we forgot to say we weren't going to have an episode on July 1st, we should just start saying now, July 29th will not be one either. So for the next 3 weeks, this week, next week, and the week after, we have episodes, but July 29th will also be a week off, just so you know.
Because we are doing our serial killer research, and sometimes we have to take a break from a regular case and our survivor cases for the Patreon over there. So they're coming in hot, guys.
Yeah.
We're not far away.
I know. I have no idea when I'm going to get any of it done.
Yeah.
Literally
fine. In August.
That's true. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you so much for just hitting me over the head with that, because I was thinking they were August, but it's not. It's September.
Yeah. We've got a whole month in between.
Yes, I will be doing it in August.
Yes.
So, anyway.
Don't worry. Be happy.
Okay. I will.
Between the two of us, we're going to get it figured out. One of us alone could not do it. But between the two of us, we're keeping each other on track on one way or another.
Yes. 100%. So, anyway.
Okay, is that all the biz?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't have
we hope everyone has a safe 4th with your families. And
it already happened, so they did.
Oh, I hope that you did have a safe 4th. Yeah. And I hope that if you like fireworks, you got to see them. And if you don't, that you didn't have to hear them.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, if we are all done with that, then I have an extremely sad case to ruin your Monday for you.
Perfect.
Okay, let's do it. So today's case is a listener suggestion from Christy.
Not me.
No, Christy with an H, but otherwise spelled the same.
Oh.
This case took place in her hometown in Illinois.
Ooh, where?
Well, it takes place in a very small town called Aroma Park, which I will get to in a minute.
Okay.
But I did want to say, before I get to that, normally we kind of warn each other about certain cases before we record. But I did not tell you anything about this case on purpose.
No, you specifically said, this is how many words my narrative is, and I will not say anything further.
Yeah. So because I think that if I had to text you the stuff or say it out loud, I honestly wouldn't may have chickened out and not done it.
So did this turn into something you weren't expecting from
Yes.
when you, oh, wow.
Yes.
Because I remember you starting to research and it wasn't like you were like, I cannot tell you anything. All of a sudden it was like yesterday. I can't tell you anything.
Well, no, that's not the case. It took me longer to research this case. Like last week, there were things that were happening last week and I was just like, I cannot do this case. Like I literally can't do it. I cannot have this in my brain at the same time as other stuff is going on. It's for me personally, it's probably the hardest one that I've ever done.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
And if I make it through today, this episode without tearing up, it will be a miracle.
Oh my, I'm glad I have a beverage in my hand.
Be warned. That being said, the chain of events in this particular case is something that we need to bring light to and talk about.
Okay.
If you are a human inhabiting this planet, especially in the true crime community, we need to be thinking about these things and talking about these issues. So that's why I ultimately am still doing the case, holding on to my very sturdy big girl pants today. So
I am literally sitting on the edge of my seat because I have no idea what you're about to tell me.
Well, I'm sure you can guess a little bit about it.
A kid. That's all I have in my head.
Okay. So for today, we are going to, like I said, a tiny town called Aroma Park. So this is in Kankakee County.
Okay.
Which is in the middle eastern part of the state, way east on the border of Indiana. Mm-hmm. It's on the Kankakee River. That gives me Wetumpka vibes. Oh my gosh, I just thought of that. It's such a crazy name. So currently, it has a population of 664 people.
Wow.
They have one boat dock and lots of water views because it is on a river. Okay, so if you think about the house that we have in Maryland, in the town that has population 600, all waterfront views, we walk everywhere, we have a post office, a stoplight. It literally is exactly like that. Only in Illinois.
Got it. Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful town. Very teeny tiny. So Christopher Richard Meyer was born on January 5th, 1985 in Monterey, California, to parents James and Micah. Christopher had an older sister, Carissa, and then an older brother, James Jr. Mm-hmm. Chris's parents divorced at some point during his childhood, and Mom remarried and settled in the small town of Aroma Park. Mom and stepdad then had another son named Cameron. So Chris is third of four. Chris and his older brother and sister primarily lived with their dad in Walla Walla, Washington.
Walla Walla! That's where the prison is.
Oh, really? Have you been to Walla Walla?
No, but I'm pretty sure I heard our friends over at What Happened in the Woods talk about Walla Walla so much.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Me too. So they lived there with dad, but they would spend summers and holidays with their mom in Aroma Park because it was just a picturesque town, super great to spend summers there. That's what we do in our town that's like that. So Chris's older brother, James, was autistic, and Chris actually acted as a big brother figure to him, teaching him things, helping him out, even though Chris was 3 years younger than he was. The two of them were very, very close. Chris is described as vibrant and kind, and he never met a stranger. He was a gorgeous little boy. Blonde hair, blue eyes, freckles. He loved singing and fishing and lived life to the fullest. At the time that our case takes place, Chris was 10 years old, and he was about to head back to Washington to start 5th grade. Little boy. On Monday, August 7th, 1985, Chris left with his brother in the afternoon to head to the boat dock, which was just right down the road. This was a normal thing for them to do. They would meet other local kids at the dock and spend the afternoon fishing. Chris's mom gave them strict instructions to be home by 5 o'clock sharp for dinner. She said it was a rule in their house to always be home on time. It was a part of their responsibilities and things like that. So the two brothers jumped on their bikes with their fishing poles in tow, headed to the dock. Chris's brother ended up getting tired of fishing and came home on his own around 3 or so, leaving Chris at the dock with the other kids. By 5 o'clock, Chris wasn't home. So his mom loaded up the baby and walked the few minutes to the boat dock on the route that Chris normally took, but she didn't see him. Once she got to the boat dock, she asked a few of the kids there if they knew where Chris was, and all of them had said that he had left about an hour or so before. Probably to be home for dinner by 5. So they think they last saw him like 4:15, 4:30. Chris's mom went back home to wait for him, but it started to get dark, and so she knew, like in her gut, that something was wrong, so she called police and reported Chris missing. Police in this small town sprung right away into action. Immediately, they started searching for Chris, putting the word out to neighbors, neighboring towns in Kankanee County that they had a missing 10-year-old boy. Chris's dad flew in from Washington to help with the search. The following day, Chris's bike was found, but it was tucked, and his fishing pole, but it was tucked away, like back in a wooded area, clearly placed there to hide it. The day after that, Chris's sneaker was found floating in the river.
Oh, no.
So at that point, Chris's family knew that wherever he was definitely in danger, and they needed to find him as soon as possible. So they were doing searches of the woods, searches of the river, like aerial searches, all the things. Multiple witnesses came forward that they were at the boat dock on the day that Chris went missing. And they said that they saw Chris walking away from the dock, pushing his bike with a man with dark hair and a dark mustache.
Oh.
The man looked to be in his late 20s, early 30s, and he had a very distinct looking gray or dark blue Oldsmobile car. Some of these witnesses also said that they had seen him at the boat dock before that day, like kind of fishing and just hanging around, but like he was awkward. He was always by himself, and it was kind of like he was lurking a little bit. They were skeeved out by this guy.
Right.
So a sketch was put out of this man and of his vehicle, and tips began coming in on people who thought they knew who he was. So this is where the story gets really heavy.
Oh, no.
It will not get better from here.
Okay.
One of the tips that came in was from a man named Richard Huffman from a neighboring town called Bradley, like very, very close by. Richard Huffman recognized the sketch of this man as being a person that he knew named Timothy Buss. He said the resemblance, especially the eyes, was unmistakable. Tim Buss had been convicted of murdering this caller's 5-year-old sister. So on May 21st, 1981, 14 years before Chris went missing, 5-year-old Tara Sue Huffman went missing. 5, Christy.
Oh my gosh.
She was going to walk down to her neighbor's house to play with her friend when her older brother Richard, so this is the person who called this tip in, went to go find her because he was giving her a pet turtle that he brought home for her. The neighbor said that she had come by, but that they didn't come out to play that day because they were watching TV. And so she just went on her way. The family made several calls and went out searching for Tara Sue, but nobody knew where she was. Nobody had seen her after that. Search parties immediately went out, and after several hours, her body was found in a dump site in the town that she went missing.
Oh, man.
A 13-year-old boy that lived across the street from Tara Sue's friend, named Tim Buss, had led the searchers into a remote area and pretended to stumble upon her body.
Did you say 13?
13.
Oh my gosh, that's our children's age.
So Tim Buss, they were in this wooded area, and he kind of veered off from the search party and was like, I found her over here.
Oh my gosh.
He then picked her up and held her up so that they could see, like, look, I found her. So the way that they say it is there's no way that he could have stumbled upon her naturally. Like,
Yeah.
because people were watching him, like, beeline directly towards. Okay, here's your trigger. Tara Sue's cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. She was partially nude and had been sexually assaulted with a wooden rod, which was found. Still there. Tara Sue was a chubby-cheeked, happy and friendly 5-year-old girl with soft curls and a sweet smile. She was the baby of 8, and they called her the family celebrity because their entire family kind of like orbited around her. She loved animals and had 2 dogs that went with her everywhere, but they were not with her that day.
Oh
she looks like a baby doll in the pictures.
I'm literally tearing up because I'm super sad for this little girl and her family, but I'm also like, what makes a 13-year-old do that?
Yeah. So she had a very special connection to her older brother, Richard, who was the one that called this tip-in. Mm-hmm. So he remembers seeing this 13-year-old Tim Buss helping look for his sister vividly. And when he saw the sketch, he was like, holy crap, that's him.
So he was convicted, would you say 14 years earlier?
She was murdered 14 years before.
Oh,
okay.
Well, I guess because he was a minor, he didn't get much time. Okay, go on.
We'll get there. Okay. So Timothy Buss was questioned. He had a few run-ins with the juvenile system before for like stealing, I believe harming animals. He had fresh scratches on his body at the time. He lied about his alibi, said he was with a friend. The friend said no, he wasn't. Okay, so she was found inside of a barrel in this dump site.
And he just came across her body?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, he did not.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, if she's inside a barrel, how does he just like randomly find her by veering off the path?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So his palm print was found on the barrel.
Okay.
So earlier that day, people came, or like after he became a person of interest with the palm print, people came forward that said that they saw him transporting that barrel through town on a red wagon. Yeah.
Like a radio flyer red wagon.
That's what I picture in my, and he had borrowed that wagon from a neighbor. Like he knocked on a neighbor's door and was like, can I borrow your wagon that's sitting out here? And she was like, sure. It's just harrowing.
Oh my gosh.
So he was arrested for sexual assault and murder of Tara Sue, and he was actually tried as an adult. So in late 1981, he was convicted and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison.
Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe that was because he was a minor.
Okay, but he didn't stay in for 25 years.
Uh-huh. So local police remembered this murder very well, right? Such a young man had very brutally murdered and assaulted a baby girl, and the town was entirely shook. But Tim was supposed to be in prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they also got several other tips that the sketch from people in town, other than Tara Sue's brother, of people that said they thought the sketch looked like Tim Buss. So they were like, where the heck is this guy? Like, he's in prison. We put him away for 25 years. So they contacted the Department of Corrections, and they realized that Tim had been released from prison 2 years earlier in 1993 after only serving 12 years of his 25-year sentence. He was paroled on good behavior, even though while he was in prison, he attempted to escape by stealing a hacksaw blade and cutting through the bars of his cell window. So here's what happened. So that happened. He was in juvie, right? He was in a juvenile prison until he turned 21. He was not good behavior when he was in the juvenile prison. However, it's mandatory that once you turn 21, you go to an adult prison. Well, you start over. So when he was an adult in his adult prison, he did have good behavior, and he worked as a janitor. And so he got released on good behavior then, even though in the juvenile prison was not the case.
I didn't realize that. Like, it's not like your record follows you.
Well,
it should, because your record follows you out in public. So it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tim Now out of prison, he's 27 years old. He had originally moved to Florida after his release, but had moved back to the town 3 months before Chris disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And he really does look exactly like this sketch. Like, I'll post pictures. So police also got a tip that a suspicious man matching the suspect's description was staying in a local motel and was seen acting strangely. So this man had arrived like a day or two after Chris disappeared, and he like checked in with an alias, and they knew it wasn't his real name, and he looked like the sketch. And a hotel worker saw this man, like suspected him
Mm-hmm.
of being the person in the sketch, and was like watching him, and saw him dump muddy boots in a dumpster near the motel. And so the motel employee went out and collected the boots and put them in a bag and gave them to police.
Wow.
I know. 1995 sleuth. This one.
Yeah. No kidding.
See something, say something, people.
Mm-hmm.
So the man at the motel did turn out to be Tim Buss, who was checked in under an alias. And they did find the boots, which had his DNA in them. So those will come back. So remember those. Immediately, police considered him a person of interest, and they went out to question him. He was very obstinate with police. He was like, every time a kid gets murdered in this town, are you going to come after me? You know, like, just ticked off. I'm being victimized. And they were like, well, if you look like the person who was last seen with them, yes, we will.
Exactly.
He did, however, agree to let the police search his vehicle, which was a dark gray Oldsmobile, just like the car that eyewitnesses described from the boat dock. In the trunk of the car, police found the carpet, and pretty much every item in it was covered in blood. They also found several blonde hairs that matched Christopher's hair color. They did a vehicle lineup with Tim's car, and it was identified by almost every single eyewitness as being the one on the dock the day that Chris went missing. And then several of the eyewitnesses also positively identified Tim as being the man he was seen with. Police arrested Tim and charged him with kidnapping, because at that point, they didn't know where Chris was. And they urged him to tell them where he was, but he refused to speak to them and retained an attorney. The motel where he was staying was searched, as well as his apartment nearby that he shared with his brother. So he wasn't even staying at his home. So it was almost like he was trying to hide a little bit, checked in under an alias, throwing things away. In the apartment, police found several newspaper articles about Chris's disappearance. Other than that, they didn't find any evidence.
Right.
Several of Tim's neighbors reported that he had acted agitated and paranoid in the days after Chris disappeared, and he had visible scratches on his arms. But he stayed completely silent.
Jeez.
On August 15th, 8 days after Chris had gone missing, cadaver dogs hit on a scent in a hunting area about 20 minutes outside of town. It led to an area that had boys' clothing, like, strewn about. So, like, there was underwear hanging in a tree and, like, a shoe somewhere. Under a wooden pallet in that area, they discovered the body of 10-year-old Christopher Meyer. Trigger again.
No, I don't want any more triggers, please.
I'm sorry. Chris had been stabbed over 50 times to his back, chest, and abdomen. He had defensive wounds to his arms and hands, and it was apparent that he had fought his attacker. His genitals were mutilated and removed.
Oh my gosh.
And it was determined that he had been killed the day he went missing. So right away.
Oh.
Also at the scene, police found a boot footprint in the mud, and that footprint ended up being a match to the boots that Tim had been seen throwing away in the motel dumpster that had his DNA in them. The DNA results showed that the blood and hair found in the trunk of Tim's car were a positive match to Chris's. No murder weapon was ever found, but it was believed to have been a fillet knife that Tim was known to carry on his belt as a convicted murderer.
No.
At that point, in addition to the kidnapping charges, Tim Buss was charged with first-degree murder and unlawful restraint, and he pleaded no guilty. Not guilty.
No guilty.
No fault here. Tim went to trial on June 1996, and after just 4 hours of deliberation, he was found guilty of all 3 charges related to Chris's murder and was sentenced to death. He filed an appeal, but that was rejected in 1999. However, in 2003, the governor of Illinois converted all death sentences to life in prison, including Tim Buss's sentence. So he is currently 57 years old and serving out his sentence there. Yeah, he's alive and grossing it out, I'm sure. Tara Sue's family actually joined forces with Chris's family and attended his trial and spoke on both children's behalf, which I thought was real stinking cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. Tara Sue's family wasn't even informed that Tim Buss had been released from prison and definitely didn't know that he was living back in their area. So they all went to bat and had a law passed that would require that sex offenders have to make their presence known when released from prison and moving into an area with children. Tara Sue's parents, Charlie and Barbara Huffman, said about Timothy, quote, "He never should have gotten out in the first place. Christopher should still be living." Okay. The two families, mostly Chris's mom, Micah, created a nonprofit called the Christopher Meyer Safety Center. It educates children through hands-on experiences to protect themselves in dangerous situations, such as fires, abuse, or abductions. Chris's mom has since moved out of Illinois, but she still works in like youth education, and she goes into youth prisons to help inmates learn about their options after they are released, which encourages them to rehabilitate themselves so that they can be productive members of society and are less likely to offend. However, she does not work with sex offenders.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm not saying people can't be rehabilitated, but there are definitely people out there that cannot be.
Tim Buss.
Right. And so, like,
As
even if he had a program like that, I don't even know that that would have helped.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion and I shouldn't say it, but pedophiles just are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you because
yeah, anybody who hurts a child or a vulnerable person is just beyond, I think, I don't know, but specifically this guy.
Well, and then there's that, like, you said he had a history, like he hurting animals, like other things that are like key signs of serial killers and repeat offenders and whatever. And so pretty serious people. Not that individual signs alone mean that, but there was more to that. He did do something earlier in his life and he should not have been gotten out of prison.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Oh my gosh.
So I watched a documentary on this case. Okay, this is like the hardest thing I'm going to say, I think, this whole entire time. I highly recommend it because both Tara Sue's family and Chris's mom, Micah, are the entire documentary. Everything is just interviews with them. So it's from their memory, the facts that happened in the case, and how, it affected them and their family. Okay, so the most harrowing part for me, I actually had to pause it and cry.
Oh, no.
So Micah's mom, Chris's mom, Micah, was talking about how she was in the courtroom having to listen to all of the things that were done to her son and how he was alive and fighting because they know he was fighting and alive. And she actually said that she had to leave the room. See, I'm going to cry. But when she was driving home, she realized that he was just doing exactly what she told him to do.
Right.
Because she had always taught her children that if anyone was ever like trying to hurt them, to fight, to scream, to kick, to scratch. And so she said she immediately drove to Chris's grave and told him how proud of him she was.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And I was like, I'm done.
I'm done too.
I know. I'm sorry. I told you that was going to be the hardest part, and we weren't going to get through it. It'd be a miracle is what I said. But anyway, I just thought that was really sweet, and I wanted to share it. So she is taking up the fight for him now, and she's doing a damn good job, in my opinion. I apologize again for this case. In 2013, 18 years after Chris's murder, his mother was given his fishing pole back that had been kept in evidence that whole time. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, we just need to we need to take a hard look at our justice system and like the faults and the flaws. And we as a true crime community, we need to talk about it. Because there was a predator who was not showing rehabilitation. First of all, there was a very disturbed young man that the system failed.
Yes.
They should have helped him before he turned 13 and before Tara Sue was murdered and harmed. He was not showing that he was rehabilitated in prison. Again, when he switched prisons, his records didn't fail him. We gave him freedom. We allowed him to return to the same town where he assaulted and murdered a 5-year-old, and no one, including her family, was even informed.
Right. Yeah.
Now a second child is dead.
Yeah.
And you know, I get the whole good behavior thing for offenders. But like, again, pedophiles are what they are. And of course they're going to behave in prison. But there's no children there.
That's true.
So yeah, they're not going to offend in prison because they're child assaulters. There aren't any there.
He didn't have good behavior his entire prison. It's just that it didn't follow him.
Right. But even if he did, of course he's going to.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, he was a child too. And that makes it even worse. We have 3 children here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one is a monster. But he was 13.
He wasn't a child the second time.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. He was a monster. But like, you know, it was really interesting to me too when I was listening to his mom, Chris's mom. I love her, by the way. She's awesome. Christy's still crying over here.
I'm
guys.
sorry. I'm sniffling, and
I'm like trying to keep it together, but
yeah. You know why? Honestly, I will tell you this. Like, everything that you said is valid, but my biggest thing was what made me keep tearing up was like, man, I need to tell my kids what I'm proud of before I have to say it to their grave.
Oh, all right, Christy. Yeah, amen.
And not that I don't tell my kids what I'm proud of, but
yeah, she says in one part too, and Micah, I'll get back to what I was saying earlier, but she's saying in one part that one thing that really haunts her now to this day is that she was like, when he walked out that door, I can't remember if I said I love you. And she was like, I probably did because that's something I do, but I just can't remember.
Oh,
and she's like, that haunts me all the time. Is like, did he know? Which of course he knew. Yeah. And anyway, both of these kids seem like wonderful and their families are awesome. And I forgot what I was going to say about her.
I know. I'm sorry.
I remember. She was saying, Chris's mom was saying that she thinks about all the time what, like you mentioned earlier, what made him be this way? Like, was he born this way?
Right.
Or did things happen in his life that made him this way? Or did, you know, like what?
Yeah.
What caused this? And like, how do we prevent it? Which is like our number one question. How can we prevent bad humans from being bad humans?
Right. And how do we learn that? How do we learn if they're like, I mean, it's like you have to study everyone's brain from the second they're born and then follow them.
Warning signs that we know, like the harming of the animals. No one taught him that. I mean, most likely, no. But like these are, we have common denominators in sociopaths that we can follow and we can research. But like ultimately, what makes them like that? Is that just them acting out on what they're already like?
Right.
Or do those things create that in them?
Yeah.
Like, we just don't know. And it's like, it was interesting to hear a victim's mother, like, also kind of talking that out and questioning it. Yeah. And like, I don't know how to prevent it. You know, like we can do everything we can. But I love that she is like, he was a repeat offender, a juvenile repeat offender. And so now she is like, I want to help these people, these men, not be repeat offenders.
Yeah.
and come out of prison and be capable of getting a job and making their own money and being independent and being good.
Mm-hmm.
Except sex offenders, which I also loved that she was like, except for them.
But I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know if I could watch the documentary. I'd have to watch it on a day where I had nothing else to do. So I
highly recommend it. It's great. There are actually a couple books that have been written, not specifically about Christopher and Tara Sue. They're kind of global books about like minors that murder, or there's one that talks about like mothers of murdered kids. So it's a bunch of different stories in one. I felt very confident that I got the family story from the documentary that I watched. So that's why I say, if you're going to do one thing after this episode, that's the one I would recommend, because I just felt it gave a really good, it left several things out, but it was great. Wow. I liked it. I love his mom. I love Tara Sue's brother, who called and said, I don't care whether you say he's in prison or not. I know who this is, and he killed my sister.
He's just got distinctive eyes.
He does too.
That's him.
Even and I'll post a mugshot of Timothy Buss when he was 13. He looks very angry. Like it's a haunting photo.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry because I'm like sniffling in this mic. Wiping my nose like so.
This grossly. Was me watching the documentary. I mean, Wes kept coming in and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Just give me a minute and I'll tell you about this case." Like,
holy cow!
Yeah, and there were things that I missed because I was like wiping my eyes or getting a tissue or like writing stuff down, and I'd have to rewind for like 30 seconds, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it again.
Yeah, I hate that on a normal case, but this one, would have been terrible.
Like I said, I'm not going to lie. The whole time I was researching this case, I was like, I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, this is such a waste of my time for me to research this because I can't say this stuff out loud. But it's so important that we have these conversations.
Yeah.
I think. And I think the families of Christopher and Tara Sue want us to have these conversations.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sorry, I can't remember because now my brain is mush. The person who suggested it, Christy, is from
the town.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Was she there was she growing up when this happened? Or
I assume so. Well, I don't know about the 1981 Tara Sue's, but yes, I think it made an impact on her life. The whole thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that it would make an impact on everyone's lives that lived in that town.
It did mine.
It's such a small town, and now ours, like reaching out to. I have not heard this.
No, me either. And it's just absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. We have to talk about it. Like, I hate it. Trust me. No, I freaking hate it. Mm-hmm. I've had nightmares for a week. I really have. Like, about my children. Mm-hmm. Specifically, my little kid.
Right.
Who, feels free to run the hood. And
that's what I was about to say. Like, they want to go and be free. And it's like, they don't understand why we have this, like, irrational fear. It's not irrational.
They should have every right to run around and be free and be safe. They should have every right to do that. And had this town known, had this mother known, Christopher's mother, I don't know. I think maybe she would have behaved differently. Maybe she would have walked with him to the boat dock. You don't know, like.
Right. And don't leave until I come and get you. I'll be there at 4:45.
Absolutely.
I'm only saying that, like, because if she had known, maybe that's what she would have done.
Yeah. Like, and we can, and two, it was, this is going on forever. I'm so sorry. But, so James' older brother, remember he came home early and left Christopher there.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
So
he must have so much guilt.
He does. And he says his mom said that every day on the day that Christopher was murdered, he calls his mom and is like, you know what today is, right? And she's like, I do, James. It's okay. You're not responsible for it. Like.
Gosh, that poor kid.
Yeah. It's just, it was an awful, it's my worst case I've ever researched. And that's saying a lot because we do serial killers.
Yeah.
But this one was so hard for me.
It's the worst one I've ever listened to. I've not reacted like this. I've teared up. I've like become emotional, but I've not reacted like this.
Yeah. It's just sad.
Oof.
It's just all fails everywhere to protect these kids.
Yeah.
So that is the case of Christopher Meyer and Tara Sue Huffman. May they rest in peace.
Yes.
And I love their families.
They sound amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I know them. Come to CrimeCon, guys.
A way to plug that randomly.
But like you get victims' families, like Gabby
No, I
Petito's
know.
dad,
Yeah.
and like they come and listen,
Yeah.
they have a message here.
Yeah. No, they do. They do. Oh my gosh. I don't even like I don't even know what to say. I'm so at a loss. I also am like literally dripping snot out my nose. Like
Ugly crying.
Crying
Yep.
about this. And I
bet
can't.
I bet you're not alone right now.
Oh. Okay. Well, man, I applaud you for
Thank you.
researching that. One, because I know who you are, and two, because it's horrific for anyone.
It is.
to talk about that, and oh my gosh. And I'm sure you're going to have pictures of these guys.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And their families. Yeah.
Yes.
Pictures of the families too. The amazing moms and families that bonded together and over such horrific.
Are fighting for their kids still.
Oh, well, we need
our
to
kids too.
Yeah. I was going to say, our kids. We need to make sure that this stuff like happens where we're informed when somebody like that is released early and put into our neighborhoods. And I know that there's plans in place, but oh my gosh, I'm sure there's people that slip through loopholes and we don't know about.
That's what Timothy did. He slipped through that loophole of moving to adult prison. I mean, who knows what loopholes he slipped through before he committed his first murder.
Right. Gosh. All right. Well, unfortunately, the only things I have to say is let's keep fighting for our kids and their right to play in our neighborhoods without being scared, and for us being scared, and tell your kids that you're proud of them. And just always remember the world is scary. People suck, especially pedophiles. Hide in your closets.